Somewhere, right now, there is a desert that has been sitting quietly for thousands and thousands of years. The sand shifts a little in the night wind. The stars above are very bright, the way stars only get when there is no city nearby to outshine them. And rising up from that desert, rising up so tall that you might notice them before you notice anything else, are three enormous shapes. Triangles, smooth sides. Ancient beyond. Almost anything else human hands have ever made. These are the pyramids of Giza. And how they came to be there in that desert is one of the most peaceful and patient stories there is. Let's wander through it slowly. About 4,500 years ago, which is so long ago, it is hard even to picture, longer than almost anything in recorded history except the very earliest whispers of writing. There was a king of Egypt whose name was Khufu. In ancient Greek, they called him Cheops, but his own people called him Khufu. And he was the ruler of one of the most extraordinary civilizations the world has ever known. Khufu was a pharaoh, which is the word for the kings of ancient Egypt. And like pharaohs before him and after him, he wanted to be buried in a manner that befitted his importance. The ancient Egyptians believed very carefully in life after death. They believed the soul continued on a long journey once the body stopped working, and that the body needed to be preserved and protected for that journey to go well. So they wrapped their dead in linen and placed them in tombs, and put beside them all the things they thought the person might need: food, tools, boats, jewels, little figures called shabtis who would serve them in the afterlife if they needed help. But where would you put a pharaoh? Somewhere very, very impressive. Now, before Khufu's time, pharaohs were buried in structures called mastabas. A mastaba is a rectangular tomb, a bit like a wide, flat shoebox made of stone, with the burial chambers cut underground beneath it. They were solid and serious, and for a long time they were considered quite fine as tombs go. The word mastaba in Arabic means bench, and when you look at the shape of one low and flat against the desert, you can see why. But then, about 100 years before Khufu, something changed. A pharaoh called Djoser had a chief architect whose name was Imhotep, and Imhotep was, by all accounts, and the Egyptians later made him a god, which is quite the professional achievement, a remarkably clever man. Imhotep looked at the mastaba and thought, what if you stacked them? What if you put one on top of another, each one a little smaller, going up and up in steps. And so the step pyramid was born. It still stands today at a place called Saqqara, south of modern Cairo. It is the oldest large stone structure in the world. It looks exactly like what it is, a very grand staircase reaching toward the sky, each tier a little shorter than the one below, rising up in 6 great steps. If you stand near the base of it and look up, it is a rather dizzying thing. Now, something interesting happens when you make a pyramid of steps, and then you look at it and think, what if the sides were smooth? What if instead of the outline going up in stages, it swept cleanly from the base all the way to a single point at the top? Somewhere between Imhotep and Khufu, over the course of a few pharaohs and a few generations of builders thinking about it and trying different things, including one pyramid that was started at the wrong angle and had to be corrected partway up. So it now has a distinctive bend in its profile and is called, quite reasonably, the bent pyramid. They worked it out. How to go from steps to smooth faces. How to build not just big, but geometrically nearly perfect. The Great Pyramid, the one built for Khufu, is almost incomprehensibly large. It contains somewhere around 2 1/3 million blocks of stone. Most of those blocks weigh about 2.5 tons each, which is roughly the weight of a medium-sized car. Some blocks, used deeper inside, weigh 80 tons, the weight of a dozen large elephants. When you add it all up, the pyramid weighs around 5.5 million tons. And originally, it stood about 146 meters tall, which is close to the height of a 50-story building. For more than 3,500 years, from its completion until a medieval cathedral at Lincoln in England was finished. It was the tallest structure human beings had ever built. Just quietly sitting there in the desert, being the tallest thing on Earth for nearly 4 millennia. That is quite a thought, isn't it? And the base, the big square footprint it sits on, is almost perfectly level. The difference in height between one corner and another is about 2 centimeters. Across a base that is 230 meters on each side. That is extraordinary precision, and the Egyptians achieved it without lasers or computers or electronic surveying equipment. How they leveled the base so precisely is not completely certain, but one very good idea involves water. A shallow trench filled with water will always settle to perfectly level, no matter how uneven the ground around it. Water always finds the level, the way it always does. So the builders may have cut trenches in a grid pattern across the base area, filled them with water, and marked the exact height of the water surface all along the walls of the trench. Then they cut the rock down to match those marks. Careful, patient, methodical, checking and rechecking. Trusting the water to be honest. The stone itself came from two main places. Most of the pyramid is made of limestone, and a great deal of it was quarried very close by, just on the other side of the Giza Plateau. Workers cut blocks directly from the bedrock there, which is one of the reasons the quarry is still visible today. A large hollow in the ground near the pyramids, as if someone took a slow and patient bite out of the landscape. The quarrying itself was done with copper tools, chisels and picks and saws, and with wooden wedges driven into cracks to split the rock. Copper is not especially hard, but it is hard enough to cut limestone, and the Egyptians were good at it. They could cut a block of precise dimensions, leaving a clean face that matched what the builders needed. The work was loud with the sound of metal on stone and dusty with pale limestone powder and very warm in the desert heat. But the very finest limestone, the beautiful bright white stone that once covered the entire outside surface of the pyramid so that it gleamed in the sun like something almost too bright to look at. That came from a place called Tura, across the Nile on the opposite bank. Tura limestone was prized for its quality and its color, and granite, the hard, dark, speckled stone used inside the pyramid for certain passages and chambers, was quarried hundreds of kilometers to the south, near a city called Aswan, at the very edge of the desert, where the Nile runs between great cliffs and the rock is some of the hardest on earth. How did they move stone from so far away? By river. The Nile runs the length of Egypt like a long, quiet road, and in the ancient world it was the main route for anything large and heavy. Boats would be loaded at Aswan or Tura, and the blocks would float northward, carried by the current and the wind. When the Nile flooded each year, which it did reliably every summer, predictably enough that the whole Egyptian calendar was built around it. The floodwaters spread out across the land and brought the boats closer to the pyramid site, making the final journey much shorter. It is rather peaceful to imagine, isn't it? Stone blocks gliding quietly on the wide brown river, the water slow and full, birds on the banks, the desert horizon shimmering in the distance, the enormous platform of the Giza Plateau growing larger as the boats round the great curve of the river and come within sight of the building site. Now, how did they actually move the blocks once they were on land? This is the question that people have wondered about for centuries, and there are some very good answers. Because the Egyptians themselves left clues. Paintings on tomb walls show the process in careful detail. Administrative documents have been discovered. And a few years ago, archaeologists found something quite extraordinary, a worker's journal. A papyrus scroll. the oldest papyrus ever found in Egypt, written by a man named Mera, who was in charge of a team that transported limestone blocks to the pyramid site. Mera wrote matter-of-factly, the way a good logbook keeper does, noting what they did each day, how many loads they carried, where they went, what the weather was like. His handwriting, if you can call it that, is in hieratic script, a flowing cursive form of hieroglyphics. And it describes clearly his team used boats and canals, loading blocks at the quarry, sailing them to the pyramid site through a system of canals cut to bring the water close to the construction area. They moved back and forth, day after day, season after season. It was organized and methodical. It was, in a way, not so different from a modern building supply operation, just quieter and powered by muscle and wind instead of engines. On land, the blocks were moved on wooden sledges. A sledge is essentially a flat wooden frame that slides along the ground. No wheels, just runners. The block would be tied securely to the sledge, and then teams of workers would pull the sledge using long ropes, leaning into the weight together. And here is a clever thing. If you pull a heavy wooden sledge across dry sand, it is very hard work, because the sand grips the runners and creates a great deal of friction. But if you pour water on the sand ahead of the sledge, just a little water, the wet sand behaves almost like a lubricant. The friction drops dramatically, and the sledge slides much more easily. There is an Egyptian painting that shows this exactly. You can see workers pulling a sledge with a large statue on it, all the ropes taut, all the men leaning forward, and right at the front of the sledge, standing on the front runner, a single person is carefully pouring water from a large jar onto the sand as they go. It is such a practical and intelligent solution. Someone noticed that wet sand is slippery. Someone tested it and confirmed that it worked. Someone thought to put a person at the front to keep the sand wet, keeping just ahead of the runners at all times. And with wet sand and wooden sledges, the builders of Giza moved millions of tons of stone. The stars come back into the story here, because they matter in a particular way. The Great Pyramid is aligned with remarkable precision to the 4 cardinal directions: north, south, east, west. The 4 sides of the pyramid face these directions almost exactly, within a tiny fraction of a degree. How did the Egyptians do this, thousands of years before modern instruments? The answer involves the night sky. The Egyptians were careful and devoted observers of the stars. They had to be, because the flooding of the Nile was predicted by watching when the star Sirius rose on the horizon, and the whole calendar was organized around the sky's slow turning. And to find true north precisely, you do not actually need the North Star as we think of it today. You can use the movement of all the stars as they wheel slowly overhead through the night, making great arcs that betray exactly where north lies. There are methods using shadow and sunrise and careful observation. Watching certain stars rise and set, bisecting the angle between them, marking the midpoint, that, done patiently and repeated across many nights, give you a very accurate north. The Egyptians had the time and the patience and the skill to do this. Imagine them out there in the desert night, the construction site, quiet after the workers have rested, the surveyors and priests standing in the dark watching the stars circle slowly overhead, marking angles on the ground with pegs and cords, checking their measurements against the sky. The stars enormous and steady. The desert cool and very quiet. The stone beneath their feet just beginning to take the shape of something the world had never quite seen before. Now, the question everyone always asks, how did they get the stones so high? This is the part nobody knows for absolute certain. Because the ramps the Egyptians used were made of rubble and mud brick and earth, and once the pyramid was finished, those ramps would have been dismantled. The material cleared away, leaving very little trace. But ramps of some kind were almost certainly used. The question is, what shape they were. One possibility is a long, straight ramp rising gently from the ground to wherever the construction was currently happening, growing longer and longer as the pyramid grew taller. The problem with a straight ramp is geometry. By the time the pyramid is half its final height, the ramp would need to be extremely long to stay at a gentle enough angle for the workers and their sledges. So long, in fact, that it would require more material than the pyramid itself. This seems impractical, though perhaps it worked for the lower levels. Another idea is a ramp that wound around the outside of the pyramid in a wide spiral, like a very gradual corkscrew path. This would stay shorter, but it would cover the corners of the pyramid, the corners that had to be checked and aligned most carefully. Hard to verify your angles if a ramp is sitting on top of them. There is also evidence suggesting that internal ramps might have been used for the upper portions. Ramps cut through the pyramid's own body, spiraling upward through the stone rather than around the outside. These would leave a distinctive shadow pattern visible in scans of the pyramid's interior. And some researchers believe they have detected exactly that kind of pattern, using a technique called muon imaging, which involves measuring how cosmic ray particles pass through the stone. The honest answer is, we are not completely sure. And isn't that rather wonderful? A building that has been standing for 4,500 years, studied by archaeologists and engineers and historians for century after century, and it still holds certain secrets in that quiet, sandy way. It does not seem troubled by the mystery. It simply stands there. The workers. This is perhaps the most important part of the story, and the part that surprised people most when they found it out. For a very long time, it was assumed that the pyramids were built by slaves. The image was of thousands of miserable people forced to work under the supervision of hard overseers. This was the image that passed into popular imagination and stayed there for centuries. But the archaeology tells a completely different story. In the 1990s, a team of archaeologists excavated the remains of the workers' village near the pyramids. A real settlement, with bakeries and breweries and medical facilities. The food remains suggest the workers were eating beef, a luxury food in the ancient world, a food given to valued people, not to disposable labor. The fish and bread and beer they ate daily was substantial, nourishing, varied. The skeletons found in the workers' cemetery show people who were generally well nourished. There is also evidence of medical care in those same skeletons, bones that had been broken and then set properly and allowed to heal, healed fractures from injuries that would have been serious, attended to and given time to mend. This is something you would only do for people whose continued ability to work, and perhaps whose lives you valued. The workers were organized into large groups called crews, and those crews were divided into smaller teams, and those teams had names. Wonderful, cheerful, spirited names. Friends of Khufu. Drunkards of Menkaure. Menkaure is the pharaoh for whom the third pyramid at Giza was built, the smallest of the three. And while we might smile at a team calling itself the Drunkards, it speaks of something human and warm, a working culture with humor and pride. People who identified with their group and were happy to announce it. It is thought that perhaps 20,000 people were working at the Giza site at any given time, not all of them moving stone. Many would have been quarrying, many cooking and supplying food, many making and maintaining tools, many organizing and recording everything that happened. A great, humming city of effort, sustained over perhaps 20 years. Some workers were permanent, skilled specialists who lived at the site year-round. Stonecutters, surveyors, foremen, craftsmen who understood the finer work. Others came seasonally, sent from towns and villages across Egypt to serve for a period. The way a person might do a stint of public service, contributing labor to a project that was, in the ancient Egyptian worldview, not just a building project, but a sacred one. They were housed and fed and, the evidence suggests, cared for. This is not to say it was easy. Moving and lifting enormous blocks of stone is hard, physical, demanding work. People were injured. The sun was relentless. The days were long. But these were not enslaved people working in despair. They were people doing something extraordinary, and perhaps they knew it. Let's go inside for a moment. The inside of the Great Pyramid is not a great hollow space. It is mostly solid stone. But threading through that stone are passages and chambers, and they are remarkable in their own quiet way. You enter through a passage on the north face of the pyramid, low and slanting steeply downward. The ceiling is close above your head. The passage descends deep underground, into the bedrock beneath the pyramid itself, where there is an unfinished chamber. Begun, then abandoned, perhaps when plans changed. From this descending passage, another branch angles up and back into the pyramid, leading toward the heart of it. This ascending passage opens, partway up, into one of the most extraordinary spaces in the ancient world, the Grand Gallery. It is a long, rising corridor with tall, corbelled walls that step gradually inward as they rise. Each course of stone overhanging the one below by a small amount, creating a soaring triangular ceiling high above the narrow floor. The Grand Gallery is about 47 meters long and nearly 9 meters high. Walking through it, tilting your head up to see the ceiling receding into the dimness above, is something people who have done it tend to remember for the rest of their lives. At the top of the Grand Gallery is the King's Chamber, built entirely of polished pink granite from Aswan. The walls, the floor, the ceiling, all granite, all fitted with great care. In the middle of the room sits a large granite sarcophagus, open and empty now, its lid long since gone or perhaps never placed. The chamber is simple, austere, quietly beautiful. It has a low hum of presence, the way very old and serious rooms sometimes do. Above the ceiling of the King's Chamber are 5 narrow spaces, one stacked above another, built of enormous granite beams. These are called the relieving chambers, and their purpose is to distribute the colossal weight of the pyramid pressing down from above, millions of tons of stone, away from the ceiling of the room below. Without this arrangement, the ceiling of the King's Chamber would long since have cracked and collapsed. The engineers who designed it understood forces and loads with a subtlety that engineers today still admire. The outside of the pyramid, the way it looks today, stepped and rough and the color of pale sand, is not how it was meant to look. Originally, the entire surface was covered in smooth, white Tura limestone, fitted together so precisely that you would barely have felt the seams running your fingertips over it. From a distance, the whole structure would have been a gleaming, almost featureless white triangle, the faces reflecting the light with something close to brilliance. At the very top sat a single carved block called a pyramidion, the capstone, the smallest of all the blocks, completing the geometry at a single perfect point. It was very possibly gilded, covered in gold or in electrum, which is a natural alloy of gold and silver that the ancient Egyptians prized, so that the very tip of the pyramid caught the first light of the sun each morning before anything else on earth did. A point of light at the summit, like a star that had come down to rest. The casing stones are almost entirely gone now. Over the centuries, they were carefully removed and used to build mosques and palaces in Cairo, the city that grew up nearby. What you see today is the inner core, the rougher limestone body of the pyramid stripped of its smooth white skin. It is still beautiful. But the original pyramid, in the morning light of an Egyptian dawn, would have stopped you where you stood. Near the pyramids, half buried in sand for most of its history, sits the Sphinx. It is a figure with the body of a lion and the head of a human, the human face, wearing the striped Nemes headdress of a pharaoh, gazing steadily east toward the sunrise. It is enormous, about 20 meters tall and 70 meters long, roughly the size of a large office building lying on its side. The Sphinx was not built from blocks. It was carved from a single natural outcrop of limestone. Someone looked at a lump of rock left behind after the surrounding stone had been quarried away and decided to carve it into something worthy of what surrounded it. Workers with copper chisels and wooden mallets shaped it slowly, teased the face out of the rock, smoothed the haunches of the lion's body, shaped the headdress. The parts that couldn't be carved from the existing rock were added using shaped stone filled in. Who does the face represent? Most likely, Khafre, the pharaoh for whom the second pyramid at Giza was built. But no inscription survives to say so for certain. The Sphinx simply sits there, gaze fixed on the horizon, keeping its counsel. For thousands of years, it was buried to its shoulders in the desert sand, which actually preserved it quite well. Kept it from the wind erosion that wears stone down to nothing over time. It has been excavated several times across history, each time the sand patiently refilling around it until the next excavation. The nose, famously missing, was probably removed in the medieval period. There is a widespread story that Napoleon's soldiers shot it off with cannon fire, but this is not true. Drawings made before Napoleon's expedition to Egypt already show the Sphinx without its nose. These old stones, gently correcting the stories we tell about them. The work on the Great Pyramid is thought to have taken around 20 years. Khufu reigned for perhaps 23 years, so the timeline is close. The building seems to have begun very early in his reign and was likely complete, or very nearly so, by the end of it. "20 years. Think about that. An entire generation of human lives. Fathers who began the work and sons who finished it. Children who grew up in the workers' village on the plateau, knowing nothing other than the enormous shape that had always dominated their whole world. that was always there when they woke and always there when they went to sleep. And here is something to hold gently. Those workers put their names inside, not on the public surfaces of the pyramid, which were left smooth and clean, but in the relieving chambers above the king's chamber. Those hidden spaces that nobody was ever expected to enter, that were sealed shut when the pyramid was complete. The workers left graffiti. Their team names, painted in red ochre on the granite beams. The Friends of Khufu. Among the oldest inscriptions found anywhere in the pyramid and never meant to be seen by anyone, written in a place where only the stone would know. In 1837, a British colonel named Howard Vyse forced his way into the relieving chambers. They had never been entered since the day they were sealed, and were not publicly known to exist, and found those names still there, still clear, still read. Written by someone 4,500 years ago who was proud of their team and their work, who wanted to say, "We were here. We did this." It is hard not to feel something about that. The Nile flows on in the distance, as it always has. The generations of workers came and went, season by season, year by year, stone by stone, and there were 2.33 million of them. The pyramid grew. Not quickly, not dramatically, not all at once. Just steadily, patiently. The way things get built when you have enough people who care, and enough time, and enough time, and enough understanding of what you are trying to do. The mathematics of it had been worked out carefully, all of it, before the first stone was laid. Surveyors marked and measured the base. Priests consulted the night sky for true north. Scribes kept records of every load and every shipment. The overseer, Mira, wrote his logbook, day by day, noting the tides of the canal and the loads transported. Bakers in the workers' village baked bread. Brewers brewed beer. The doctors saw to injuries. And the stonecutters, out in the quarry, cut. Copper against limestone. Wooden mallets driving the chisels home. The steady, quiet rhythm of work in the cool of the morning, before the desert heat built to its full weight. The sound of it, that steady chipping, that dull, regular thud, would have been the constant background sound of the Giza Plateau for 20 years. The way birdsong is background to a summer morning, just always there. There are 3 pyramids at Giza. Khufu's is the largest. His son Khafre built the second one, slightly smaller but set on slightly higher ground, so that in photographs they appear nearly the same height. Khafre's pyramid still has some of its casing stones near the very top. A band of pale white stone sitting above the rough brown core like a collar, the last remaining glimpse of what all 3 pyramids once looked like across their whole surfaces. Menkaure, Khufu's grandson, built the third pyramid, the smallest of the three at Giza, though still larger than almost any other ancient structure. This was built by the drunkards of Menkaure, or at least partly by them, and there is something pleasant in imagining that cheerful team putting the last stones in place. Together, the three pyramids have been painted and photographed and wondered at for thousands of years. Later, civilizations were as astonished by them as we are. The ancient Greeks, who came to Egypt and stood where we stand now, listed the Great Pyramid as one of the 7 wonders of the world. It is the only one of those 7 that still stands, still largely whole, still in its desert. The other 6 wonders are gone. The Hanging Gardens, the Lighthouse, the Colossus, the temples, and the Mausoleum all vanished into the long uncertainty of history. But the pyramid is still there. Four and a half thousand years old, and still roughly the same shape. It was the morning the last stone was set. Isn't it a calm kind of thought, that something made by human hands so long ago is still there? That right now, tonight, you could stand at the base of it and rest your hand against the stone, and the stone would be the same stone that Mira's team floated down the Nile, that the quarrymen cut from the bedrock at Aswan, that the workers dragged up the ramps on their wooden sledges across their wet sand. The stone does not know how old it is. Stone does not know anything, of course, but there is something very settling about its age and its stillness, about the way it has simply been there, through every change of dynasty and religion and language and empire, through the rise and fall of things that seemed enormous at the time, through centuries when nobody even remembered who Khufu was, or what language was spoken at his court. Just quietly being a pyramid. The desert around it has shifted. The Nile has moved its course slightly over the centuries, the way rivers do. Cairo has grown up to the very edge of the plateau, a city of millions spreading out across what was once only sand and the river, and a small community of pyramid builders going about their days. But the pyramids are the same. The stars above them are the same stars too. The same stars the surveyors used to find north on those quiet, dark nights. The same stars that the priests watched to know when the Nile would flood. The same stars the workers might have looked up at when they stopped to rest, putting down their tools for a moment and looking up. Orion was there. The Milky Way was there, a pale river of light across the sky. All of it enormous and slow and calm, the way the sky is when you really give it your attention, when you give it enough time and enough quiet. The pyramid builders were, in that way, not so different from anyone who has ever looked up at the sky and felt something hard to name. Something like wonder, and something like smallness, and something like peace. They looked up. They noticed things. They figured things out with great patience and careful observation. They worked hard together. They were proud of their teams, and they wrote their names in the dark in places nobody would ever see. And then they went home. 2.33 million stones. Each one placed by someone who knew what they were doing. Each one quietly holding up the ones above it, just as it was designed to do. The sand settles. The stars turn very slowly overhead. Somewhere in a desert, 3 old triangles are still standing. The stone is cool now, the day's warmth fading gently into the night air. The wind is very light, just enough to move the sand in long, shallow waves across the desert floor, the way water moves. The Nile in the distance is the same river it has always been, wide and quiet and patient, carrying things softly from south to north. The way it always has, the way it always will. The workers have been asleep for a very long time now. Their names are still red on the granite. The pyramid holds everything in its quiet, enormous patience. Still there. Still there.